All right, we're live. In a way, this reminds me of that time at Lambeau Field when it was snowing in the background. I set the camera up and I did a big live, but that was after a 49ers playoff game and a huge 49ers win in the playoffs. This is a little bit different than that one frigid time up at Lambeau. This is after week one of the preseason. We saw hardly any of the 49ers starters, and we saw their backups just get drubbed by the Raiders 34-7, with the lead today being that Trey Lance was very, very shaky. Now, two things can be true at once. Trey could have improved a lot and shown that improvement over the course of the 49ers practices this training camp. I think that's absolutely something that happened. But of course, even as I had been reporting Trey Lance's improvement, I had pointed out that his short game was still a little bit shaky. So that improvement can happen at the same time as Trey Lance looking really, really, really questionably bad in a preseason game, which is what happened today. And I think that the short game issues that we saw from Trey Lance and have seen throughout training camp, and I think they've gotten a little bit better over time, but those issues really, really reared their ugly heads in this game against the Raiders today. The stat line does not tell the story for Trey Lance. 10 of 15, about 110 yards today. That looks good on paper, but when you watch what happened here on this field at Allegiant Stadium, you saw a very, very different story than the stat line. I mean, it starts with the fact that Trey Lance's touchdown today, which is what put his passer rating over 100, should have been intercepted. And the interception was bobbled, dropped, and it bounced to Ross Dwelley. So it actually ended up being a lucky touchdown. Really interestingly, though, I was down in Kyle Shanahan's press conference after the game, and Kyle actually thought that Trey Lance's decision on that play was the right one. He was going for Chris Conley in the back of the end zone. He spun back around. He was obviously rolling to his left. Guy was coming up in his face. Conley was open. It looked to me that Lance got rid of the ball a little bit too late, but Shanahan said that even though the decision was correct, the accuracy wasn't where it needed to be. He had to deliver a perfectly placed ball. Ball wasn't perfectly placed. It should have been an interception. Ended up working out in the 49ers' favor, and it was a touchdown. I digress about that, though. I think that much more, alarmingly, we saw Trey Lance just not look comfortable in the pocket at the start of this outing. It was three straight 3-and-outs for the 49ers offense. Trey was back there, just looking skittish. The 49ers' second-team offensive line in front of him was bad today as well. People say, hey, well, this was the second-team offensive line's fault. And then other people say this was all Trey Lance's fault. To that, I just stay consistent. I think it's both units' fault. I think that Trey needs to help out his offensive line by hitting those shorter throws. And this is why I've talked about the shorter throws so often for so long, ever since the 49ers drafted Trey Lance. I still remember the first time he came into an NFL game against Seattle back in 2021 after Jimmy Garoppolo hurt his calf. I think it was Kerry Hyder who stepped on Jimmy Garoppolo's calf, created the calf strain. Trey Lance came in and he started missing gimmies. And, everybody's enamored with the deep passes and Trey Lance's strong arm on those intermediate routes. But none of that matters, and it's exposed big time in a game-like situation. Because if you can't hit the short gimmies on time, and we saw Trey Lance struggle with those early in his outing today, you're going to put your offense behind the sticks. What should be 2nd and 4 turns into 2nd and 10. A first down turns into 3rd down. And that's when opposing pass rushes can really expose a deficient offensive line. And the 49ers offensive line today obviously wasn't their first team, right? You had Leroy Watson out there. He came in a little bit later, so I'm not going to put Leroy under the bus. But the 49ers' 2 starting tackles today, Jalen Moore, Matt Pryor, I thought they both struggled more on the left side. Matt Pryor on the right. He gave up one of Trey Lance's 4 sacks there. That was on the 3rd down where, Trey might have been able to get the ball out more quickly, but Pryor gave up the pressure. But then you go back to why Pryor was put into that position. Well, 1st and 2nd down didn't go all too well because the gimme wasn't converted, right, on the 1st and 2nd down. So the 49ers need to – it's a complementary effort. The quarterback helps his offensive line. The offensive line helps his quarterback. And I think earlier in that series, I think I'm talking about the first 3-and-out, Nick Zakelj, who's one of the 49ers' interior offensive linemen, got backed right into Trey Lance, who, again, didn't look comfortable in the pocket. And that leads me to my next point. And here I have titles for this stuff. The next point is a bottom line. Trey Lance, I think when we watch his performance today, and there were some nice intermediate throws. He hit Chris Conley in the 2-minute drill at the end of the half. I know Jake Moody missed the field goal. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a little bit. But Lance, in 34, 36 seconds, set the 49ers up for what should have been an easier field goal try, right? That was good. So some of those throws were fine. But then there were other ones, and there were other decisions in the pocket, and there were other moments of bad timing in the pocket, like the time when Trey held the ball for like 5.5 seconds before he was sacked. There are other situations where he didn't look as comfortable. So I think that you add it all together and you can find the objective, unbiased truth by saying Lance started off really uncomfortable, looked a bit more comfortable as the half progressed, but then still made big-time errors throughout the whole outing, and that happened even on that 2-minute drive. He threw a dropped interception, right? You can fairly say that there was good and there was a lot of bad from Trey Lance in this performance, and you could reach the conclusion that I put down at the bottom of the screen, that Trey Lance just needs reps in the context of this pocket-style system. He needs to become more comfortable with reps, but the 49ers don't really have a window to give him these reps, right? It was never a big window. They drafted Trey Lance in 2021. They spent the whole lot on him. Number 3 overall pick, right? The plan was to keep Jimmy Garoppolo, let Trey Lance learn behind the scenes, and also get some reps while Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback. They're planning to mix and match them, obviously, with a bigger load for Jimmy Garoppolo, but with a smaller role, some running packages for Trey Lance. That was the plan that rookie year. The problem is that he broke his finger, traded against the Raiders in the preseason. That was in Santa Clara. Then in 2022, Trey was supposed to take the reins as the starter. He actually did that at the beginning of the season, but he broke his ankle. So the 49ers had this very, very narrow window that they needed to hit with Trey Lance's development. They were going to hit with simultaneously with Jimmy Garoppolo as the starting quarterback in 2021, and then with Trey Lance as QB2 in 2022. But everything had to go right, and not everything went right. In fact, everything went wrong as far as injuries are concerned. The broken finger derailed 2021, and the ankle injury derailed 2022. So now they have Trey Lance in 2023 with Brock Purdy now existing. Brock Purdy's clearly better than Trey Lance. I think today Sam Darnold was clearly better than Trey Lance in terms of having a higher floor. But you have this new situation, right? It's a new order for the 49ers quarterback room since the emergence of Brock Purdy and the signing of Sam Darnold. And you just can't play this, if you're Kyle Shanahan, according to the plan that you had when Trey Lance was first drafted and he was priority number 1. Back then, you had plays for Trey Lance. You had read option plays. You had some design runs. Now he has to perform within the pocket because that's what Purdy does best. That's what Darnold does best. That's what the system dictates. You can't keep on pouring resources into a ship that's already sailed. And that developmental window to squeeze Lance into quarterback 1, that ship has undoubtedly already sailed. Now, they believe that through that developmental window, they could get Trey Lance to be a proficient pocket-style passer over time. And now he's just got to prove it by being thrown in with the Wolves, being thrown into that pocket-style system without those design running plays. People, I don't think those were really popular with people on the outside anyway. They blamed all those plays for Trey Lance's injury. But we see last year why Kyle Shanahan did want to run so much with him, because Trey wasn't yet fully comfortable from the pocket, as you saw in today's game right here on this field at Allegiant Stadium. So he's got to develop that pocket comfort. And when I talk about the quarterback 2 situation, and Sam Darnold looked a whole lot better than Trey Lance today. He went 5 of 8 for 84 yards in the second half. Didn't have as much of an opportunity. I expect the roles to probably reverse next week. Darnold will have more of an opportunity behind the second-team offensive line with the second-team weapons, less time with the 2s and the 3s in the second half. But, when you look at Darnold today, first throw to Ronnie Bell, dime downfield, hit Ronnie Bell again in tight coverage a little bit later on, looked comfortable in the pocket, was getting the plays in, rolled out of the pocket. Nice throwaway, I'll have to say, for Sam Darnold on one play that definitely should have been a sack. He was making the kind of plays today that, you kind of hold your breath when Trey Lance is back there. Maybe he can make it, maybe he can't. He's very athletic, he's smart, but he's still just as rusty with some of the mechanics and the fundamental work that you would expect for a quarterback of so little experience. Well, I have to say that Sam Darnold has a higher floor right now than Trey Lance. Everybody likes to talk about Trey Lance's ceiling. it's not about the ceiling as much as it is about the floor, because we're talking about the backup quarterback job. You know, if back in 2021, the 49ers could talk all they wanted about Trey Lance's ceiling because they were grooming him to be their QB1 for a really long time. And they had this plan with Jimmy Garoppolo holding down the fort until Trey was ready to go. And then they could develop his ceiling within the context of the roster. You know, you throw that out the window because Brock Purdy has already shown that he has a higher floor than Trey Lance. And Brock Purdy has shown that his ceiling might be pretty damn high, too, based on how well he played last year. So now in this part of the developmental process, you're talking about quarterback 2. It's a competition between Lance and Darnold. We saw both of them today, and Darnold's floor, I think, is clearly higher than Lance's floor. And the reason I say floor is more important is, well, if Purdy gets hurt, you need to go to a quarterback who's going to keep the line moving. You can't have 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, turnover-worthy throw, sack, 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 sack. Even if Trey Lance does have an explosive play or 2 or 3 peppered in with the midst of those, that doesn't keep the offense moving as efficiently as it should be moving. And that's why I come back to the short throws and the gimmies. Now, Lance, again, he did get better over the course of this performance. It wasn't all horrific. He did get better. He found some rhythm. We saw him hit those intermediate throws. But in general, there was just too many misses out there early on, too much discomfort in the pocket. And for Trey to win this quarterback 2 battle with Sam Darnold, he's going to have to come out against Denver next week and just show way more stability in the pocket. That's the key for him. He's going to have to deliver within a pocket-style system because that's what the 49ers are operating with now. Sam Darnold's got a whole lot more seasoning than Trey Lance, right? It's a matter of experience. And the question is, can Lance cram enough of it in to impress the 49ers enough while they're in this win-now mode? But I think now everybody can understand why I've been talking about the short passes, because they could derail everything. They can hurt your offensive line. They put your team in a bad position, and it is a team sport. So that's what Lance has to improve as we move forward to next week. All right, now let me reach up here. We got to go to our next title. All right, we're going to go stock up and maybe some stock down for today. But stock up definitely for Ronnie Bell, 49ers rookie wide receiver. Let me tell you about Ronnie Bell's stat line. Now, I said then down, but mostly up because it wasn't all great. It wasn't all roses for Ronnie Bell today. But he did catch 3 passes for 58 yards to lead the 49ers, caught the go ball, made a nice catch on a beautiful throw from Sam Darnold early in the second half. Also caught a couple of intermediate passes. And then what I saw from Ronnie Bell, he ran that jet sweep today. And I was really impressed because Ronnie's doesn't have the biggest frame. He's nowhere near as big and strong as Deebo Samuel, but he ran through 2 tackles on that jet sweep. If you could do that for the 49ers, you're going to play. You're going to get those calls from Kyle Shanahan because it's so important for them to take advantage of NFL defenses that seem increasingly reluctant to tackle. So the Ronnie Bell jet sweep opened my eyes because we don't see that in practice because guys can't bring you to the ground. So, the inverse of that is that receivers can't really break tackles. Today, Ronnie Bell broke some tackles. He also was the 49ers' primary kick and punt returner. And they need both of those jobs filled because Ray McLeod is currently hurt, right? So we had Ronnie Bell out there delivering for the 49ers in, I thought, efficient fashion offensively, decent fashion in the return game. You generally just don't want the rookie to screw anything up. Kyle Shanahan complimented him for that. The reason I say the stock fell down is because Bell dropped a pass that turned into an interception for the Raiders, nearly a pick 6. And funny enough, Kyle Shanahan said after the game, that was actually Ronnie's best route of the game, and he dropped it, and it turned into a pick. So it wasn't all great for Ronnie Bell. That was a bad play. But I think in the larger picture of things, Ronnie had 2 good practices here in Vegas on Thursday and Friday. He had a good OTA session. We hadn't really heard all too much from him, again, through training camp until Thursday and Friday. 2 good practices. Then he was their most productive receiver. He was their leading return man in this game. Stock up for Ronnie Bell. That's, despite the mistake, and the 49ers hope he's going to learn from it, I thought that he helped himself out there on the field today. And we have more big-time stock up for 49ers rookies. Let's go to the defensive side of the football. Jalen Graham, 6 tackles today, led the 49ers. He's the big linebacker who can play some mic, who can handle the radio in his helmet. But the linebacker out of Purdue. You see a lot of Fred Warner in Jalen Graham as far as the physical build and the college history. Fred Warner played a DB role essentially at BYU. That made him a great pass coverage linebacker for the 49ers. Jalen Graham played a DB-like role for Purdue. They think he could turn into a great coverage guy for the 49ers. But up until today, we hadn't gotten to see how well these guys can tackle. Because, again, there's no live tackling at practice. So this was the first chance. And I thought that Jalen Graham tackled really well. Like I said, 6 tackles. Ji'Ayir Brown, 3 tackles. Charvarius Ward was out saying that Ji'Ayir Brown was going to start knocking people around once it came time to see live action. First preseason game. I think that's exactly what Ji'Ayir Brown did today. I thought that there was some solid tackling from him. Zamir White, Raiders running back, the play before Zamir ran it in for a touchdown to begin the game, there was a touchdown saver from Ji'Ayir Brown coming up from that safety position. And, it was a good play. He came in near that pylon, identified the movement in the backfield, good instincts, and made a solid tackle. So I think arrow up for those two 49ers on the back end. And I say back end for Jalen Graham because he is good in coverage, and he was making a lot of tackles today. Now, with Ji'Ayir Brown, who was their top draft pick this year, this is important because the one veteran starter, presumed starter, who got significant action today on either offense or defense was Isaiah Oliver, who I've talked a lot about. Isaiah Oliver. They signed him. He was with the Falcons before. He's a nickel back. He's a bigger nickel back, though, right? And whenever I've talked about him, I've talked about that fact that he's 6 feet, 6'1", 210 pounds. The concern with Isaiah Oliver is coverage. 49ers want him near the box because they want to beef up against the run and against bigger, slot receivers, the kind of big slot that they're talking about today. 49ers want to be better fortified against that. So they went out and they got more beef at their starting nickelback spot. For comparison, somebody like K'Wan Williams is only 5'9", 185, maybe even 175 or 180. You go out and get Isaiah Oliver, and he's 205 to 210. But then the question is, can he cover well enough, or are you going to have to use other defensive backs to sub him out, in certain pass packages? And today, Keelan Cole, receiver for the Raiders, beat Isaiah Oliver for a touchdown. Oliver gave up 2 catches today and, really underscored some of the concerns with Isaiah Oliver. And if there are those concerns, and the 49ers do have to get more creative with their package play in the defensive backfield, that's where Ji'Ayir Brown can come in as a third safety, right? So if Ji'Ayir Brown shows out the rest of this preseason, he can be on that Talanoa Hufanga track. In 2021, they had Jimmy Ward, they had Jaquiski Tartt, and then Talanoa Hufanga, especially as the season progressed, came in as that third safety. And that third safety can take the spot of the nickelback. It just depends on the personnel packages. Or he could take the spot of the third linebacker. Well, anyway, questions with Isaiah Oliver. I'm not making firm judgments yet because this is just the first preseason game. It was a makeshift defensive line. Everything was backups out there, so there's no reason to overreact. But it's something worth keeping an eye on. How are the 49ers going to mix Ji'Ayir Brown in? Because I think today Ji'Ayir Brown was good. And I think today Jalen Graham and D. Winters, who had 3 tackles as well, I think both of those rookie linebackers really made a nice impression for the 49ers in their first live action since college football. And you know who else made a nice impression? Ambry Thomas. Ambry Thomas, we talk so much about his struggles, right? Because he was MIA last season. And we talk about his struggles in 2021 as he was developing into a cornerback who made one of the biggest plays of the year when he intercepted Matthew Stafford to send the 49ers to the playoffs. But, Ambry needed to get stronger. And he might still need to get a little bit stronger. But that was the book on him in 2021. It's like, this guy moves fine. He's got the movement skills. He's got the ball skills. He can do all that. But at the point of attack, he just gets out-muscled. And in the NFL, if you get out-muscled, well, you're going to lose the whole rep because guys in the NFL are going to prey on your one biggest weakness, and they will expose it time and time and time again. So I talked to Ambry in the locker room today because he had a pass breakup. He had good coverage on a third down. There was a holding call against him once. So that was the one negative play. But two good tackles. Kyle Shanahan was impressed with Ambry Thomas. And I asked Ambry, there was a play against George Kittle about a week ago. And George is 60 pounds heavier than you. But you made a nice physical pass breakup. And I told Ambry, I think that, it seems to me you're popping off the screen a lot since that play. Was that the turnaround? And Ambry said it was actually a play in OTAs against George Kittle. This is fascinating stuff. He said that Tay Martin and Ambry Thomas were jawing at each other after a play. George Kittle came over, backed up Tay Martin, got in Ambry Thomas's face, Very next play, George in OTAs runs a dig route. Ambry Thomas is all over it, knocks the football away, incomplete. And Ambry said, ever since then, I've been trying to play big. I felt different because George is 60 pounds heavier than me, right? George is taller than me, 6'4", 250. So ever since then, Ambry Thomas figured out that he can play a little bit bigger than his size. Like, he's done the weightlifting. He looks different than he did as a rookie, but I thought he was still playing a little bit timid before that moment. He's not playing all that timid anymore. And that's huge for the 49ers. So that's the backstory of how he might have turned things around. When you look at the 49ers cornerback room, Charvarius Ward, Deommodore Lenoir, they didn't play today. They were starters. Those are the top two. But you look at 49ers history or any NFL team's history, you better have a good corner at number 3. Deshaun Jameson, who was out there today with a couple tackles, he's in the mix. Samuel Womack was out there today, made a couple stops. He's in the mix for number 3. But so is Ambry Thomas. And Ambry Thomas has started games for the 49ers before, so he might be at the top of the list if he could turn it around the way that it seems that he's turning it around out there to be that third cornerback. And that's a really, really important spot on a football team. All right, this is some of the bad today. Stock down, 49ers offensive line depth. I think the 49ers were hoping for a better performance from their second-team offensive line. I really do. They weren't able to get much of a run game going. And, the pass protection in front of Trey Lance was not good. I mentioned at the start of the show, Lance needs to do more to protect his offensive line. Like, it's not just O-line protect QB. QB needs to protect O-line. He needs to hit his early throws in rhythm so that the offense can get in rhythm, so the offensive line aren't a bunch of sitting ducks. That's really important, right? But that being said, in the situations where it was mano-a-mano block, give Trey a chance, the offensive line did not do well for the 49ers. I mentioned it was Jalen Moore at left tackles, Matt Pryor right tackle. You had Zakelj and Jason Pote the guard spots. And they started with John Feliciano at center. But then when they went to their second group of twos, they moved Feliciano out. Feliciano's a lock. He's solid. He's fine. He's a veteran. Keith Ishmael came in at center. He's had some snapping issues so far in training camp. And you got to see both Poe and Zakelj staying at those guard spots. You saw Leroy Watson come into the game instead of Jalen Moore at tackle. Matt Pryor stayed at right tackle. Leroy Watson was at left, and then he moved to right. Anyway, all the permutations of this offensive line, the second-team line, did not impress me. You saw Nick Zakelj backed into the quarterback. Jason Poe, he fights hard, but it's really tough with a lineman that is a little bit shorter, obviously, than you would like, the shorter arms for the guard. Matt Pryor got beat. It's tough for me to see Matt Pryor being an effective swing tackle because he's getting beat on the right side, hasn't even tried the left side yet. Jalen Moore, he's going to have to make the kind of jump that Colton McKivitz made for the 49ers in 2021 to regain a spot. There's a real chance that the 49ers starting swing tackle is not on his football team right now. I don't know how they're going to acquire somebody. It's going to be really hard, but they might have some extra capital to spend because you saw how well some of those young defenders played today. That was the one bright spot for the 49ers, right? You had, I thought, some good performances from the linebackers, Jalen Graham, D. Winters. Maybe there's a chance that the 49ers can part with somebody like Warren Burks. Does that allow them to get a swing tackle? I don't know. Maybe they'll have to spend picks too. And I don't know. I don't think they've decided yet exactly where they are along the offensive line. But where they need to be in about a month, a little bit less now for week 1, they need to have at least 7 quality offensive linemen. I get that the 5 starters didn't play today. So you just assume the 5 starters are quality guys. And let's just assume that Colton McKivitz is a quality guy, right? We'll talk about that later. He didn't play today. But beyond the starting 5, you need at least 2 guys who are versatile backups, and preferably 3. I think you really do need 8, but I'll be nice and I'll say they need 7. So assume that John Feliciano is one, of those 7. That gives you 6, right? Because Feliciano has been solid his whole career. I think the 49ers believe he can be one of the 7 quality offensive linemen. You need to find at least one more body that you can truly trust. And in the past, it was somebody like Daniel Brunskill, who's no longer with the 49ers. He's with the Tennessee Titans now. You need to find at least one more body out of the mess that we saw on that field today. Did you see that one body out there today? I don't think that the 49ers did, to be honest. I don't think they've seen enough from Jalen Moore. I don't think they've seen enough from Matt Pryor. I think Leroy Watson's an intriguing player, a convert from tight end last year, has put on a lot of weight, played both sides today. He might be the swing tackle of 2025 and beyond. But there's still a whole lot of improvement that somebody like Leroy Watson has to make. So, and then on the interior, well, I mean, they've been happy with Nick Zakel's physical progress. Has he shown enough in an actual game yet to, give him okay, this guy can really be guard depth for the 49ers? I don't know. And we're going to have a larger sample. We're going to have to see if he can, all these linemen can look at their tape, watch the mistakes, and move forward from it. But the depth is sketchy, and it's probably sketchy around the whole league. But if you want to be a championship contender, you do need at least 7 quality bodies. And the 49ers, to me, and this is assuming Colton McKivitz is going to be fine. I'll give him that assumption. I'll throw him a bone for right now. To me, they only have 6 right now. And that includes Feliciano. And obviously, I'm talking about Colton McKivitz. So let's see how it plays out. All right. And then we move to some of the special teams, the kicking issues. Jake Moody missed from 40, and he missed from 58. If you want to see Jake Moody's interview from the locker room, it's up there. It's up on the channel. So you can go ahead and check it out. Kyle Shanahan's not worried. Jake Moody didn't seem worried. I don't know what else to tell you except for the magnifying glass and the noise is going to get much louder if he doesn't convert next week. Moody said he wanted to have one more opportunity today to get the taste out of his mouth to prove that the 2 misses were flukes. He didn't get it. That's all you can do. You just shrug your shoulders, move on to next week. Yeah, they let go of Robbie Gould. They didn't want to pay him. They wanted the cost-controlled alternative. They do have the Zane Gonzalez insurance. If Jake Moody just gets the yips and this continues week after week, well, they're going to keep Zane Gonzalez, right? They may not cut Jake Moody, but they're going to keep Zane Gonzalez to give Moody a longer runway to develop at NFL level. That is a break the glass in case of emergency kind of thing. Why don't we just hold our horses here, wait till next week to see how Jake Moody does? I mean, it was his first time in an NFL stadium. Maybe he just has to slow it down in his head. Maybe these were 2 flukes. That's what he said. And only time is going to tell the truth on one of those. I think only time is going to tell the truth on the defensive line, too. I didn't think Kevin Givens was good today. I didn't think Javon Kinlaw was great today. I thought they both got washed out by some double teams. I thought the Raiders ran the ball relatively effectively. But here's the thing. I mean, the 49ers are really happy that once everybody's here for the defensive line, once everybody's playing, so that involves Bosa, that involves Javon Hargrave, Armstead, all these players, they don't view Kevin Givens and Javon Kinlaw as starting level players. They're going to have to give them starting level output. They view those guys as depth pieces who are going to be playing as part of a rotational wave that Chris Kaserik lines up, right? I mean, that's going to be the way that the 49ers operate. They're not in here to, have Javon Kinlaw be the starting defensive tackle or Kevin Givens be the primary 3 technique. That's just not how the puzzle is going to work. So don't judge the whole puzzle with only like a few of the pieces in there. If Javon Kinlaw is operating in the second wave and he's not getting snap after snap after snap, he's probably going to look different than as the guy who leads the 49ers out of the tunnel in week 1 of the preseason, right? So I just want proper contextual evidence for the 49ers defensive line. Otherwise, I think evaluations in the preseason don't make much sense. You have to view them in the context of this is just the preseason. The individual, techniques are being worked on, but the entire product obviously wasn't good from the 49ers. But if you actually think that the 49ers are worse than the Raiders and worse than the Raiders by a score of 34-7 when both teams are running out there at full strength, then I have a bridge to sell you, right? That's just not the case. And I think a lot of people treat these preseason games like the regular season games from a fan perspective, but the team is definitely not treating them that way. All of the starters, except for like Isaiah Oliver, were sitting, right? And that's just how it is. The team is going to take a lot of flack in the media because, they didn't look like they were a playoff team. The truth is we don't know who the 49ers are yet, right? We don't know either way. There's no reason to make a proclamation one way or the other. We can just make smart assessments of each individual player. And that's what I think I hope I did up on The Athletic. You can go ahead and check out my article, which covered this game. So that's a look at it from Trey Lance to everybody else. I'm going to have to – Trey Lance was shaky. That was the main story. Why don't we do a little Lombardi Leaves Allegiant tour? I could grab this. I don't want to hold this for 30 minutes. That would have really hurt my arm. But maybe I could even flip the camera. That would be really nice. If I can't flip the camera, then maybe Lombardi leaves Allegiant is not the way to do it. Let's see. No. Don't know if it's going to be possible, but yeah, maybe I could walk you guys out of here. Here, we'll put this down for just a second as I pack up my bag. We're in a radio booth. You can see the field here. Just give me 1 second. I'm packing up the bag. And we're going to take this to the elevator and ultimately to the car. Might be the last person in the stadium in the press box. It is unclear. All right. Promised you I'd be back. All right, so we're going to move this to a Lombardi leaves the stadium tour. I'm going to be quiet just in case there's anybody working in the press box, but I can show you guys what this all looks like. So this is behind me where the food is. I was like in one of these aux boxes as they're cleaning up. Clock operator's booth, all that good stuff. And the writer's area is going to be up here, but I'll be quiet in case somebody is still writing. Give you guys one last look at the field here. It's kind of where my view was today. I'm sitting at one of those desks. It's a nice stadium, that's for sure, right off the strip here in Vegas. Now, here's for the adventure. This is where I have to try to find my way out. This is one of the stadiums that I struggled with. More staff to help you out. Thankfully,
going down.
All right, thanks. We're going down. I think the 100 level sounds about right. I'd be surprised if I lost some service here. It looks like it already blanked out a little bit. All right, we're about to arrive at the 100 level here of Allegiant Stadium on our way out. With a hope this is correct. Oh my God, it's getting dark outside. I think this is the right way. I think I went out this way last year. It's going to be a little bit of a walk to my car. I'm not going to stay live for the whole walk. We got some military tributes here on the wall of the 100 level. And I believe I remember this. We'll see if I'm right. This is always stressful. You're on camera. It might be a level too high. Yeah, see. That looks like the parking lot underneath me. At least you guys get to see more of the stadium, right? Let's see if there's any questions. The camera frozen, or are we working? I think it's working. I think that I might have been frozen when I was in the elevator. The really frustrating part is I'm walking the wrong way right now from my car. Brutal. Ooh, exit stairs. This might be it. I'm gonna hit my head. I think we gotta go down one level. I know the Wi-Fi was shaky. I switched to data. Oh my God, I think I found it. It says exit, no re-entry. So we'll do our best. Made it, and it's hot outside. And they're playing some music. All right, guys, I'll talk to you all later. I made it out of Allegiant. Got to make it to my car.